Hey there, people of Earth. Today we're going to be taking a look at Sonic Forces, a game that Sega actually pushed back the release date of for the sake of polish. And no, I'm not joking about that. Something else that I'm not kidding about is that I've just about beat the game 3 times for this review because the hard drives that had my original footage crashed. So yep, I'm doing the voiceover and editing all over again. So that said, was the delay worth it? Well, from my end, it better be. Before starting the review, I feel the need to get this out of the way first, especially considering that Sonic Forces is coming out on like everything. Now when it comes to myself, I got the PS4 version for the simple reason being that this was the only version I could get early. Well, the PS4 version and the Nintendo Switch version. But I opted for the PS4 version because the Switch is owned by my little brother, and since I hogged the Switch all week playing Mario Odyssey, I don't think he's gonna be too happy with me asking to borrow it again for Sonic Forces. So how was the PS4 version? Well, I was actually surprised the game ran at 60 FPS on a console, and that took me by surprise. I mean, sure, the game dropped a little during huge cutscenes, explosions and whatnot, and the in-game cutscenes seem to be rendered in 30 FPS for some reason, but the game on the whole maintains a freaking 60 FPS throughout, and that's me playing on the base PS4. I'm guessing that this is what most of you guys wanted to hear about, but considering the game is not even out yet, this will be a spoiler-free review, and I will only be discussing plot details that happened in the first 30 to 45 minutes of the game, though I apologize if I show something that you did not want to know. So yeah, consider that my proceed with caution sign. So how is this story? Well, it's kind of hard to explain. It's more like the Fast and Furious meets Sonic the Hedgehog, and no, I'm not joking about that. Though I am talking in the sense that adrenaline is always high and the game's pace never slows down. The game starts all nice and normal, but in mere moments, and I do mean mere moments, Green Hill turns into Sandhill Zone, and all hell breaks loose. Sonic gets his ass kicked and then is imprisoned by Eggman, and that, my friend, is what happens in the first 5 minutes of Sonic Forces. And apparently 6 months go by, with the world now under Dr. Eggman's control, because apparently Shadow, Knuckles, and the rest of the gang are useless without Sonic. And yep, you guessed it, this is where that Avatar character shows up. Oh, look at that adorable face. Anyways, looking at the whole situation at the moment, I get what Sonic Team was going for. They wanted to give players a similar feeling to fighting a war, and a war is not only hectic, but it also involves a lot of people, and in this case, it's what our heroes call the Resistance, with Knuckles being the commander, which means that thankfully they stopped with the Knuckles is stupid shtick. But anyway, with this situation means having your avatar play various missions that I'm guessing are supposed to symbolize the struggle of the people of Earth. And this is further displayed in this game using the radio conversations between the stages, as well as the ones in game. Now don't panic, if you don't like the radio chatter, you can turn it off in the options menu. Now I kept the radio on because I seem to be one of those few people that likes pretty much everybody in the Sonic universe, including Big. But moving on with my point, while I get what they were going for, I don't think they succeeded all that well. The first problem is the lack of visual feedback. Sure, the city is destroyed when you're playing the stage, but everything that happens after the stage where Knuckles explains the situation and why things are bad is just, well, this. We are told a lot of things, but we are never shown. In fact, the city might be the only thing in chaos in this game. I can't think of any other stage that also is in a state of despair. Which, speaking of the stages, there are a lot of rehashed stages in this game, which for me at least takes away from what the game was trying to do, because I'm just like, oh, it's Green Hell Zone. Oh, it's Chemical Plant Zone. And the way the stages look don't give the same emergency tone of the characters. And speaking of the characters, throughout the game, all we get of the Resistance army is this guy. So yeah. Well, don't get me wrong, while I thought the execution could have been better because there's no build up at all, stuff sort of happens, it was still nice to see Sonic Team attempt a serious story, even though I think they miss more than they hit with the execution. But then again, as I said at the beginning, this is more like the Fast and Furious meets Sonic the Hedgehog, and breaking down the story of any Fast and Furious movie is not the point of the movie. It's about the action, and Sonic Forces more than delivers on that. This game is just ridiculous in all the right ways, including the absolutely brilliant soundtrack, and fortunately I'm able to look past the inconsistencies and take the game for what it is. Though that said, I do think I was a little overloaded by the action, since there's so much of it that my brain stopped being amazed after a while and just kept going, guess we're doing this now. Hell, even Fast and Furious had quiet contemplation time. But I digress. The story is obviously there as an excuse for the ridiculous gameplay, which, speaking of the gameplay, how is it? Well, rest easy. You'll only play with 3 characters, Classic Sonic, because reasons, your avatar, and Modern Sonic. Aside from Classic Sonic shoving himself with still the inability to I will never get used to this classic Sonic, but that said, if you enjoyed him before, you'll enjoy him in this game. Personally, I'm indifferent. Next up, modern Sonic. In terms of gameplay, they got so much right. First off, Sonic is nowhere near as stiff as he was in the previous modern games. The developers actually give you more control while you run, and the homing attack feels a lot smoother, almost as free-flowing as the one from Adventure 2, and while the jumping is still stiff, it's nowhere near as stiff as it was in Generations. Put all that together, and the fact modern Sonic stages 3D segments actually last for longer than 2 seconds, and you have yourself one good playstyle. If I had one complaint, it would be that while the jumping controls are better in 3D space, they are still as stiff in the 2D segments, and I can't explain the dread that goes over myself when I see 2D platforming in modern Sonic. Just no. And lastly, we get to your avatar. He plays a lot like Sonic with only 2 differences, and no, neither of the differences is how you can customize your avatar, which is not only something I didn't really care much for, but I also quite disliked how whenever I would beat a stage, I would unlock a whole bunch of aesthetic stuff that was honestly annoying to skip through. But anyway, back to the differences. The first one is that he has this hook thing and a wisp one. Get it? Weapon wisp one? Anyway, there's a reason your weapon is called a wisp one, and it's because depending on what weapon you choose, you'll get to use a certain type of wisp. Use the fire blaster and you get the bomb wisp, which you can use to gain ridiculous altitude. I mean, look at this. Or for example, you can choose the lightning wisp, which gives you the lightspeed dash to not only use it on coins, but you can also use it on enemies as well. Now, another difference between your avatar and Sonic is that you can't boost like you could with Sonic, and honestly, I did not miss the boost all that much. And playing with the avatar was actually a lot of fun, and I found myself enjoying destroying a large number of robots with the fire blaster. But wait, there is one more playstyle apparently that I didn't mention. And well, I don't know if I would call it a playstyle, but in a few stages your avatar and Sonic will team up together, and what does that mean? Well, it means that now you're able to use the moves of both characters, and to further add to that, nowhere in the stage will you be restricted to progressing with a certain ability that one of the two possesses. So if you wanted to progress with just Sonic and just have your avatar tag along, not doing anything, for the most part, you can. You don't need to use the avatar to destroy the enemies, but that said, I did find myself using a combination of both characters, because again, for me at least, the avatar character was pretty damn fun to control because his playstyle doesn't compromise on speed all that much. So that covered, combining all the playstyles and the set piece after action set piece nature of this game, Sonic Forces is actually one hell of a ride, though I do have some point of contention. Now, from my understanding, development on Sonic Forces started in 2013, and if so, then that's really surprising because the game is a little too barren in terms of content, because aside from the cutscenes, the world map screen, and the stages, there's nothing else in this game. This is a heavy story game with not much else. Now, I'm not really complaining, but the game to me at least does seem to lack a lot of the charm that made the previous games, well, charming. Whether it be extras in Generations or the thought that Eggman might have done something nice with building a theme park in space and more, but with Sonic Forces, you hit new game, go through the cutscenes and stages, and about 3 hours later, you're done. And for a game that skipped Sonic's 25th anniversary for polish, the overall content of the game seems a little underwhelming, but then again, the game might have been delayed to actually polish it instead of adding content, because as I mentioned in the beginning, the game runs at a solid 60 FPS throughout, which given the choice, I would always prioritize that over everything else. It's just that it would have been nice to see a few extra modes. So what do I think of Sonic Forces? Well, just like an action movie, you will have a lot of fun with this game if you take it for what it is, instead of overanalyzing the game when it clearly is not meant to be overanalyzed. Personally, I had fun with the game, and I can safely say that for the first time in a really long time, that I'm looking forward to Sonic Team's next Sonic game, and I'm not as worried. And really, there is nothing else I could add to that. So with that being said, for those of you who are watching, wherever you may be in this world, thank you guys for watching, and stay alive until the next video. I can't believe I finally finished the voiceover all over again.